We got this clip from Real Clear Politics. Ladies and gentlemen, you want to watch, let me say this. Elizabeth Warren was challenging Pete Hegseth. Okay. Wow, are we in the weeds on politics on this one? And she was basically like, you think generals, shouldn't serve for 10 years and you won't make that pledge today? And Hegseth is just like, I'm not a general.
Oh, and make money. They can't,
right, they
10
can't
years.
Be lobbyists.
10-year moratorium.
And she asked him if he would make the pledge, and he's like, I'm not a general. And then everyone laughs.
I was in the room.
It was hilarious.
Yes.
Now, that is an example. Like another one, this one is Senator Ron Wyden, who makes a ridiculous claim and instantly gets roasted in a rather hilarious way. Speaking of China.
The more you reduce carbon, the bigger your tax savings. Now there is a big effort in the Trump administration to reverse it. I think that's going to be bad for the economy, but it is going to be damn good for China because we are in an arms race on clean energy with them. Are you going to be on the side of people who want to unravel this?
Senator Wyden, just so we can frame this for everyone in the room, China will build 100 new coal plants this year. There is not a clean energy race. There is an energy race. China will build 10 nuclear plants this year. That is not solar. I am in favor of more nuclear plants. And I would note that the IRA, as scored by the CBO, is wildly out of control in terms of spending on the upside.
Well, it's just, it's so great.
It was great.
China is not trying to do clean anything.
No. But they are trying. The irony here is, well, first of all, I'm happy that he said nuclear. He's all for it. I think that is our future. If you really want clean energy, that's what we've got to start. Our approach has to be. The interesting thing about this whole we're in a clean energy race, China has no interest. Clearly, they're building 100 coal plants, all this stuff. What they're trying to do is get everybody else to go onto the solar and the EVs because guess what? They're the ones that are actually producing a lot of those things.
That's right.
Look,
and then all of a sudden you become dependent on China.
You guys see this picture? This story was posted in 2014. This is virtual sunlight in Tiananmen Square. Mm-hmm. Instead of seeing a sunrise, they put up a gigantic screen to show a sunrise because the smog is so bad. China's not doing clean anything. They don't care.
Nope.
Their attitude is largely, quote, it's our turn now.
Yes.
They say, you industrialized, now we industrialize, and you can't stop us.
Yeah, I said this a couple times on the show. It's like, if people in the United States are actually that concerned with the green revolution or whatever, then you don't want to focus your attention here. You want to focus your attention on India and China because both of those countries have 1.5 billion people and they are not fully industrialized like the United States is.
Well, the other thing too, like when the U.S. says we're going to pull back on our climate, we're going to pull back on our emissions and all of that stuff, it's just another way to say we are going to subsume ourselves to minorities globally, except they're not minorities. We're the minority globally. They're not.
I think we need to start looking at energy policy as a national security
I think that's a great idea.
issue. No, we have to because if you actually of your own you capitulate and say we're going to go down the EV path, we're going to do solar, all of these things. Again, I think it's 90+% China is actually producing in the world market of EV batteries and I think solar panels as well. You are going to basically subject yourself because they will be providing your energy if we go down that path, God forbid. And then all of a sudden, energy policy is national security, and there is no national security. Like, at some point, we have to get these people who are pushing us to go down this path and say, you are pushing us down a path of being subservient to China, not the distant future, sadly, in a relatively short term if we're not careful.
That's an argument that I heard Marco Rubio making today, that if we don't do something, then he probably wasn't making it today, he probably made it on Monday or whatever. But if we don't do something about our posture towards China, we're going to be depending on China for things that we desperately need, like all our medications, all kinds of things.
Is it penicillin? I'm trying to remember what it is, but like 90% of our penicillin for the army, for the military is produced by China.
All that's anything that we need for our national security.
Like there's just so much stuff that is actually a national security issue.
And this is why I think TikTok's got to go. Gotta go.
I don't disagree.
Just get rid of it.
Yeah. No, I mean, divest from China. It's really simple. Look, there's a lot of people out there who say Trump is altruistic and he is motivated purely by the goodness of his own heart. And I'm like, well, hold on there a minute. Donald Trump certainly is motivated by, I think he's a good guy. I've seen him be nice to people. He's been nice to me.
He's very...
I think he's a nice guy.
Genuinely warm in person.
He is, but he's a human being who wants to accomplish things and feel good about the things he accomplishes. He's a guy who puts his name in giant gold letters on tops of buildings.
You've seen his signature.
It's a beautiful,
very John
beautiful
Hancock
signature.
Yes.
But so TikTok realizes censorship is coming their way. Conservatives are upset about it. So what do? They put a flip on it, help Trump out a little bit, make Trump happy, and now Trump's backed off banning TikTok. I don't care who they're helping. I do not like the idea of China having influence over our younger generation.
I agree. I don't like it.
The only reason Trump won is because of Gen X, not because of Gen Z. And now Trump's going, you know, I think maybe, he invites the CEO of TikTok to his inauguration, says maybe we should hold off on banning it. And I'm like, here we go. Trump's going to get out of office. TikTok's going to go tenfold in the other direction, and we are all going to be worse off because of it.
I'm hoping. I think fundamentally at his very core, Donald Trump is an old school. I love America. I love everything that has made this country great. I want to do everything that will return us to greatness. I think at some point he's going to wake up and realize, I think it's Kellyanne, to be honest. I think Kellyanne Conway has been pushing some of this.
Really?
For pro TikTok?
Yeah. So,
why do you think that is?
I think she's probably getting a consulting fee from them, from what I've seen. I think she's actually a lobbyist for them. She's also taking money from Ukrainians and all that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a problem with some folks in which they're taking money from interesting sources. That all to say, I think Trump's instincts are going to kick back in when he realizes I have to be consistent across the board on the issue of China. And I think TikTok is part of that being consistent, right? No, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
At some point, it's going to kick back in.
The concern that I have is TikTok doesn't allow, or China doesn't allow TikTok in their own country. That's a red flag right there. TikTok has Douyin. They don't allow TikTok in their own country. Why? I think it's a weapon against young people. Even if 30% of the content is woke, they know they're creating an economic drag to the tune of 30% of the young people who follow that crackpot ideology, even if it's 5%.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong. In the United States, X, Facebook, YouTube, they have the same garbage ideology, but Americans are allowed to have that ideology. What we don't want is our foreign adversaries fanning the flames of an illogical, broken mental state that is wokeness, so that our young people grow up. And we end up with a story about a councilwoman in Massachusetts who's taking a month of leave because she's been misgendered.
They've been misgendered.
Wokeness.
I'm sorry.
Wokeness is weakness.
And
I agree with this.
Pushed this to an extreme degree until Trump said, let's ban it. And then they kissed Trump's ass. And now Trump says, let's keep it.
No, I think we should. I think we should pull the thread a little bit on the whole wokeness is weakness. I mean, wokeness on energy policy is weakness. Again, going back to national security, but this whole idea of weakening, it's the mind virus in our our younger generations, and weakening them in the face of. I mean, I think we're in for some pretty challenging times on the international stage.
Trump had an executive order in his first term to ban TikTok.
Yes. And then it got blocked.
Yeah, it got blocked.
Then it was only after October 7th when TikTok, so basically what happens is there was a very small footprint of Israel-Palestine content, and then seemingly over the course of a single weekend, it jumped to be 2-1 pro-Palestine. All of a sudden, you get this anti-Israel content, and Democrats and Republicans are like, uh-oh, because they love Israel. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not here to make an argument on Israel-Palestine. The point is, I don't care who you are. China should not be implementing algorithms that manipulate the worldview of the American people. I don't like that corporations do it. The U.S. government shouldn't do it. Yet here we are. One quick thing. Super chatter Ian said, anyone else notice Tim mirroring Trump? I'm literally impersonating him. That was the joke. I'm doing the Trump hands when I'm talking about Donald Trump.
Kellyanne Conway advocating for TikTok on Capitol Hill, March of 2024 from Politico.
Uh-huh. And what was her daughter doing?
Probably doing like anti-Israel stuff on TikTok.
No, she was doing a lot of the social media stuff and was heavily criticized for what she was posting.
I'm telling you, there are some people that are taking some very weird consulting contracts that need to be watched.
There's a lot of pro-China stuff that's ended up in my X feed in the past couple days, ever since the whole Red Book came out. And
what's the deal with this Red Book thing? Have you guys signed up for it?
No,
it's just another app.
Like a
but
Chinese data capture.
Look, I will keep it simple, and with all due respect to Bobby Sauce, who was on the show yesterday, we ended up doing this 30-minute long debate over the issue of TikTok, of which he was not as informed as I. I mean that with no disrespect. He didn't read the bill in a long time. He wasn't familiar with the provisions that were in it. And he wasn't familiar with how TikTok worked or what the bans were, the timeline on these bans. And so my point was just literally, I believe that he exemplifies exactly why we have to shut China's interest in TikTok down immediately. The bill is correct. All they have to do is divest. The app can stay, whatever. But you end up with a guy defending Chinese interests. The debate was not TikTok should be banned outright, goodbye. The debate was foreign adversaries should be, at the demand of Congress with congressional power, forced to divest from American media. That's what the bill does. He argued against that. And the question that Raymond had and I had over and over again is, why should China be allowed to own a mass media program in the United States?
Propaganda.
The answer is there's zero reasons.
Yeah, there's zero reasons.
So when you can convince an individual to go on a massive news show and advocate wholeheartedly for Chinese interests, you can see the effect of Chinese propaganda in real time. It's literally that.
Vehicle for injecting their propaganda or their... I mean, they play... The thing that's a little scary, they play the 100-year game.
Yeah.
So, of course, they're going to take this slow, and if it's 30%, like you were saying, they're going to start weakening the woke mind virus, pumping it into the young generations. You know, maybe it causes effects 10 years, 20, 30 years from now. But they're playing the 100-year game. Yeah. But we're allowing them to have a vehicle for propaganda to inject it into young American minds. And I think I know a lot of Republicans, staffers, and members on the Senate side are definitely for, like, we need to actually address TikTok in a forceful way. So I'm kind of curious to see how this plays out in the first 6 months of the Trump administration.
Well, the argument is that Donald Trump will use an executive order to suspend enforcement action against TikTok, which technically could work. I don't think it will. I could be wrong. The issue is that there are fines attached to this bill. Apple and Google would be on the hook. As private companies, you're going to be hard-pressed as an insurer or as a business owner to say, I'm willing to open myself up to massive liability under the promise that Trump decided he won't enforce a law that we're breaking. 4 years after Trump leaves, those fines will be on the books, and Apple and Google will be on the hook for those fines should another president decide to enforce the action at that point.
Right.
So when this law kicks in, the Supreme Court has not stopped it. It doesn't matter if Trump says, I won't enforce against it, if Apple and Google say, yeah, well, we don't want to be involved in whatever that is.
Yeah.
Not to mention, these other big tech platforms might say, hey, we don't want China competing with us in this space. We want to control the data, so we will happily take it down and use you as the excuse as to why we had to.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. I think that it's more than just the influence. I think that it's probably an espionage tool, more than just being able to...
They backdoor everything.
Yeah, more than just being able to influence what people think and kind of fomenting anti-American sentiment, which it absolutely does. You can hear people complaining about the United States and stuff like that all the time.
Was it on TikTok where all of a sudden Osama bin Laden...
Yeah.
Was that the whole push going on TikTok that somehow Osama bin Laden wasn't a bad guy, actually?
Yeah.
This is insane to me.
Yeah, that was insane.
The argument...
It went back to his Guardian letter.
That the bin Laden letter was circulating and going viral, and this is the point. Young people don't know the context. Many of the people that were posting this weren't alive on 9/11, and I mean it with no disrespect to these young people. So they don't know the history. They didn't experience it. China, through TikTok, begins then promoting this in their algorithm. So here's what happens. Young people don't read the letter, do the research, come back and say, here's my historical assessment on the bin Laden letter. They say, hey, whoa, this guy got 1 million views for praising Osama bin Laden.
Right.
So then they make a video where they do the exact same thing, repeat the exact same lines, and then what happens? some 17-year-old kid in high school opens the app and he sees a wall of posts. Bin Laden was right over and over and over again with millions upon millions of views. We need to shut this down. The idea that Trump would defend this. Trump needs someone to talk to him for real. He's got Elon Musk right there. Elon should be like, yeah, dude, look, Elon goes a different route on this one. Okay? We don't want China doing that stuff.
I think it's weird, too, that he just reversed it. And it was just because of after the election, because he used TikTok during the election. A lot of people use TikTok. A lot of conservative influencers use TikTok during the election, and now they're not talking about how TikTok should be shut down. Meanwhile, in the first term, I remember that executive order. It was was it like September 2020 maybe was when the executive order was to ban TikTok?
Yeah.
And I was like, this seems like a really good idea. Everyone was super in favor of it. And now it's just like a complete about face.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.